that is that I'm actually here doing it. Because I'm the biggest pussy in the world, I will run away from most things in life. But the fact that I'm able to stand up here and do this proves that epiphany actually worked. And I had this epiphany at the dentist, of all places. Not the normal place you would have a sudden realization of truth, but you have to take them where you can get them from. And I was sitting there in the dentist chair for about an hour and 20 minutes having my wisdom teeth removed. Yeah. And it felt like my mouth was being torn apart by the dentist, and I was getting really, really anxious, so I found myself digging my nails into my thighs and looking up directly up into the ceiling and to focus my attention on one speck of dirt in the ceiling. And that speck of dirt became my entire universe. Nothing else existed beyond that speck of dirt, because if anything else existed, my anxiety would seep in. But I was being distracted by the nurse because she kept on looking away from my mouth. And this is a nurse, she should be able to cope with what she's seeing, and she's unable to do that because of what was going on in my mouth, and I had no idea. And the reason why she was anxious and she couldn't cope with it is because the dentist had to use a scalpel to cut away at my gum so he could grab onto my tooth to loosen it, which was horrible. And even then, that didn't work. He had to use the drill to split my tooth into two parts. And at that point, she had to leave and be replaced by a more experienced nurse who could cope with the sight of my bloody mouth. I didn't know what to do. So I kept on looking up I was trying to focus, but it wouldn't do. And apparently I had really long gums, roots which anchored into my jaw, and that's why it took so long. But by the end of it all, I realized, while I was looking at the speck of dirt, that in a few weeks' time, I'll be standing up here, doing this gig, and that tension kind of went away, because I would gladly swap standing up here talking to you fuckers than being in that chair, feeling like Dustin Hoffman in The Marathon Man. And the truth of that set me free. And the truth will always set you free, my people. And some truths you never thought to expect just hit you, like the fact that maybe, if I was able to watch porn with my dad, I'd be able to communicate with him better. Let me try to explain to you what I mean by that. I'm the first generation of my family to be born in this country. My parents are from the Middle East. They're Jewish, but they're from the Middle East. So even though they were alive in the 60s, they weren't really in the 60s. So being able to talk about sex or anything like that wasn't even an issue in my family. We were just left to our own devices. I have 3 other brothers, so you can imagine. I wish I was able to have that conversation with my father, to say to him, Dad, last night I was in bed trying to go to sleep, but I couldn't. It was almost as if I had a fever on top of me. My heart was pounding in my chest. My forehead was covered in sweat, and I felt like I was going to explode, but I was trying not to. But when I did explode, I was finally able to sleep. But in the morning, Dad, when I tried to take my pyjama bottoms off, I almost took the tip of my cock off. And as I looked down, I saw this crusty mess in my pyjamas, and I thought, oh, fuck's sake, what the hell is this? My poor mum, she has to clean all this. And I couldn't believe it, what the hell is going on? And I wish I was able to say to my dad these things, and for him to say to me, son, it's okay, never mind the bar mitzvah, this is when you become a real man, because then you'll want to explode as often as possible with as many people as possible as you can. So I thought to myself, this must be a normal kind of relationship between a father and son. But then, to contrast that, I went over to a friend's place a few years later, and I found his father sitting in the living room watching porn while his wife is making dinner, and me and his son are walking into the living room, and he's sitting there watching porn, drinking a bottle of beer. Then he cracks open a bottle of red wine, and I'm sitting there with his father watching porn, and not only talking, he's critiquing the fucking movie. He's able, and I found myself quite jealous of my friend, because he's able to have to be able to communicate with his dad about everything and everything. So I thought to myself, well, maybe I should start watching porn with my dad. Maybe rent Caligula or Debbie Does Dallas or something. But no, the damage has already been done. But I then had a breakthrough moment with my father. I was at home watching a movie with my father. Has anyone seen the film Private Parts, the Howard Stern movie? Yeah, well, in that movie, a woman calls up his radio station and says that all day long she's thinking of him and can't do anything about it. So what could he do to help her? So he gets her to put the speaker down on the ground and put the bass all the way up on her stereo and gets her to kind of straddle the speaker with the Private Parts over the woofer. And then he began to blow into the microphone. And that vibration caused her to orgasm live on air. And I turned to my father, I couldn't believe it, because anytime there was any kind of sexual stuff on the TV, the whole house went silent, and all you would hear from my father is this disapproving noise of, which basically meant, what the fuck is this, and why are they showing this on TV with my son in the room? But as I looked at my father during his program, I had a breakthrough moment with him where he just laughed. And that's the first time I've ever had a positive kind of experience with my father with that kind of nudity or sexual thing that's going on. It's always been a big taboo subject in the house growing up. So that's basically it. Thank you for listening.